YouTube has gotten me through one of the worst real estate markets in all of the country. I put out the pros and cons of living in Leander, which is my city, in 2025. It has 78 views right now, but that person that saw that resonated with me, reached out to me, resulted in a $45,000 commission check.
All right, Jordan. So super excited to have you on here, man. It's been pretty incredible to see that, you have started to tap into YouTube, and I think you've got a very relatable story. A lot of people are seeing those on YouTube, and they've got the thousands of subscribers and the thousands of views and the big vanity metrics. And that kind of makes it seem like like, will it work for me? And you've got such a relatable path that is now yielding absolutely incredible results. So I'm really excited to unpack that and help people do that for their own business. But for anybody that doesn't know who you are, just give yourself a brief introduction, who you are, where you're from, and what kind of got you tapped into YouTube.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike, for having me. I'm excited to talk today. And like you said, I'm not anyone particularly special. I'm an Austin agent here in Texas, and I had a YouTube channel back in 2020, which was really the hot time to have it. And I was putting up really lame videos with horrible audio quality, bad editing, and just not. And I also wasn't super consistent, which was another problem. But as that hit the back burner for me as I was ramping up production. It's funny because I look back and I can't help but wonder where my business would have been if I would have, tweaked a few things that I've done here in the last, year or so and really stuck with it. But yeah, I'm Jordan Brown. I'm a Austin, Texas agent, native Texan, have been here my entire life and been in real estate for about 5 years now.
That's awesome. Well, it's incredible to see that journey, and I would love to kind of lead with that before we get into the tactical. Is talk a bit about your journey with YouTube. Like, why specifically YouTube? But what has that journey been like from the beginning of actually creating your channel to where you're at now? And we'll get to it, but I think you should touch on it. You're getting $1 million clients from your YouTube channel. Without having tens of thousands of subscribers. So
Yeah.
let's walk through that journey kind of from beginning to now.
100%. I think the biggest obstacle for so many people is just getting started. And that's the biggest hurdle with almost any lead gen tactic. It's like the problem of going to the gym. I have no problem once I get to the gym, but it's driving myself there and like putting the clothes on, driving, getting in the car, driving 20 minutes to get to the gym. So YouTube was that for me. So once I started, I was like, okay, like I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll get 10 views on a video. Who knows what the end game looks like? And in my market, I was looking at these Goliaths on YouTube. If no one knows, Suman Kim, the number one agent in Austin in 2024, is in my exact market, and his killing came from YouTube. So I'm like, I'm this very small fish in what feels like a very not even crowded pond, but just kind of a small pond. There's all these big fish around me that are doing it. There's another realtor with a different group that is really big on YouTube too. And part of me was just like, I want to give my fair chance at making this happen. And I didn't have any fancy equipment. I didn't have this YouTube setup, this studio setup behind me. It was very raw. I had like a green screen, and I would go in and I like look up tutorials on how to add a background. And, you know, if you go back and you look at the videos, it's a very humbling experience compared to where they're at now. But the biggest thing was just getting started. And even my journey to today, where I'm more consistent than I ever have been. I haven't missed a week in over 10 months, which I think that's one of the you know, biggest changes in my channel was just putting out consistent content, forcing myself to really sit down, time block, and like knock this thing out. And that consistency has rewarded me. And I've organically grown my channel from what it was even 11 months ago, where I had, I think, 30 subscribers, to I'm just shy of about 500 now, with no paid advertising, with no, um, I don't share it on my Facebook or my Instagram. I don't want my friends and family sharing it. Those are the wrong audience for me. So even though 500 doesn't sound like a lot, it's for something that has organically grown. I'm really proud of that.
100%, man. And And I think it's really critical to unpack that and remind people where oftentimes we get so consumed by the vanity metrics without realizing that each one of those numbers is an actual person, a potential client. And, if you could imagine 500 potential buyers and sellers, waiting to see what you have to say next, any agent that I know in the industry would, do anything for that. They would be enamored by that opportunity. But then they see the subscribers and they're like, "Ah, it's not enough." Well, when you treat it with, there's 2 different ways to treat it, which is the way you're doing it, which is very grateful for it, and that's why you continue to pour into those 500 people and why you're gonna get to 5,000 and 50,000 one day. But the agents that are saying it's not enough and it's not worth continuing when the numbers are low, that's why you never deserve to get more. So
100%.
let's talk about some of the numbers before getting into the tactical, just to help people understand. Like, we've had, Barry, for example, on the channel, and he, you know, had 200 subscribers and he was making a killing from this. Um, and sometimes people think that if I only have 500 people, am I going to get any deals? Do you want to talk about, what it's done for your business?
100%. YouTube has gotten me through one of the worst real estate markets in all of the country. If you look up the headlines about Austin, Texas real estate, it hasn't been pretty for the last 2 years. There's been double digit depreciation. We have historic levels of inventory. And so if you let those headlines dictate your action, you're going to stay in the same place and you're going to be stuck. So I figured instead of trying to find my way through, cold calling or door knocking, which is a one in, one out, input output, I figured let's just put up videos and reach the most amount of people as possible. And it's really worked. Like I said, I think the quality of your content is way more important than what kind of views you're getting because the conversion is where it's at. I've had a video that it's my most successful walkthrough video that I've done. It's just shy of about 16,000 views right now. I did get 3 calls from that. None of them ended up working out. Won't get too much into it, but it just didn't work out with those leads. But that's a 16,000 view video that didn't result in anything for me other than I get to say, "Hey, it got 16,000 views." And then you look at the video where I put out the pros and cons of living in Leander, which is my city, in 2025. It has 78 views right now, which by comparison is a huge flop. But that person that saw that resonated with me, reached out to me, resulted in a $45,000 commission check. So I look at that video as way more of a success than the one that got 16,000 views. And that's so true to the rest of my channel. Even though what I'm putting out may not be, super clickable or the most search topic right now. Like I mentioned, Austin's search traffic and move traffic is way, way low compared to the pandemic. But people are still looking and they want quality, opinions and content. So the last handful of really solid leads have come from videos that have less than 100 views. So you got to get out of this mindset that views are everything. And subscribers aren't everything either. Subscribers, while they'll get notifications about your content and everything, sometimes they're just lurking. Like it's legitimately a vanity number. I
Yeah,
go by how
I
many calls am I getting?
100%. And that's why I think it's really critical to be able to track the more tangible metrics and getting paid. I think a lot of people, you know, are we're in this quirky area where everybody seems to want to be like the worst word I hate, an influencer instead of an actual realtor getting paid. And I know a ton of realtors that have more followers and dollars in their bank account. And I would rather it be the opposite, right? So let's start to talk about kind of the more tactical side of things of like, what the heck are you doing? um, people are obviously going to see your studio right now and say, well, of course his content is great. Of course, I can't look, I don't look like that. So I'm not going to get clients. You know, what kind of equipment have you been using? What type of videos have started to provide results, the tangible results? Kind of walk us through that content process.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'll tell you what, this is within the last 2 weeks. It has not been like this, like slowly over time, I think that's a crutch for people is they kind of it's another barrier that you're putting in front of yourself as to why you can't get something done. People didn't reach out to me because my background looks sick. I promise you. That video, it was a long time ago when this was just a blank wall with some little lights in the back, and that's it. Um, so yeah, as far as what I did or what I'm doing now that's getting results, my opinion pieces are what get people to call me. It's like, don't get me wrong, walkthrough content, I think definitely if you look at my channel, walkthrough content gets more viewers, but the people that actually reach out didn't reach out to me because I showed X floor plan most of the time. It's because I showed that I know this area. It showed that I'm the local expert. It showed that I'm not going to tell you an opinion just because I think that's what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what I truly believe. The kind of videos that have gotten me phone calls lately, I mentioned the pros and cons of living in Leander in 2025. Funny enough, that video, only has a few hundred views right now, and that's the one that got me that big paycheck. I made the same exact video in 2024, and it was still, a pretty decent video, but it yielded zero results. So the one that got less views once again is the one that got me the calls and the paycheck. So that's one that I highly recommend. Another one, this is kind of an unpopular one for realtors probably, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My last two quality leads have come from a video where I said, if you're moving to Austin, Texas, here's why you probably want to lease instead of buying first. Very unpopular. It's kind of a crazy take because leasing is a lower commission for you, but it builds trust. And the people reached out to me. I've gotten three quality leads from that who are buying with me next year, all around a 750 and above price point, because they said it didn't feel like you were pushing buy all the time. You're I'm looking at relocating, and this is exactly what I needed someone to tell me, was that it's okay to feel out an area. It's okay to make sure that I love where I'm going to live at before I make this big investment. So things that build trust. I think you have to be your authentic self. You have to give real, genuine opinions because it comes across the camera differently than a script. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that comes down to, what we talk about often, which is connection over perfection. A lot of people are lacking the connection side of things where they're also taking a very immediate gratification, viewpoint and perspective toward their content. They're saying, I'm only going to put out the content that's going to yield me a potential buyer who's ready to move today because I need to get paid now.
Right.
Instead of like you, like that goal of just building trust is the ultimate goal of social media in general. We all hear that you want to get people to know, like, and trust you. And people really focus on the know like, but they heavily lack in the trust because
100%.
oftentimes they're taking a more selfish approach to it of what's going to get me paid instead of how can I put out this content that's going to best educate the clients that eventually will work with me if I build that right connection. So I love that you've done that, and I think that's a really, important thing. But one of the things I also wanted to unpack there is that it's important to find what works for you, right? Like you and Suman Kim are partners, and Suman is full tilt, all in uh, property tour videos, and that works for him, which is fantastic. But you're seeing incredible results in the same market with the same opportunities as him with a different style of content. And I think that's amazing. I think a lot of people really get consumed of wanting to, be a carbon copy of somebody else because it worked for them. Instead of saying, okay, the concept of this platform worked for them, but what is the niche that's going to work for me? And I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people, really fall short.
Well, it's really tempting to see something that's working for somebody really well, might I add, uh, to see that and go, oh man, how am I going to do something different? Like, this is clearly what works. This is what people want to see. Therefore, I should probably just do more of that. And I won't lie, the first time that I started making videos, it was inspired by Suman before we were even partners. I saw his success and I was like, "Oh my god, like property tours is where it's at." So I started doing it, and then slowly over time I'm like, "You know what? I'm not going to be Suman Kim. I'm not going to be the person, or at least not immediately, that's getting, 200,000 views on my walkthrough videos." And I had to adapt also because the market has changed. As I mentioned, Austin's market, one of the worst in the entire country. Search volume is down. So, how can I differentiate myself and not rely solely on the property tours? For me, that was my approach, is how can I differentiate myself? And that's ultimately what made someone reach out to me, in my sleep, that ended up being the biggest sale that I've had to date.
Yep. Well, and that's a critical point in itself is as agents, our job is to be the market experts and to identify where does the opportunity lie right now, right? If you look at where Subin started, he started in the golden era of Austin, which is everybody was moving there due to COVID. But things have changed. And if you don't change and adapt to what's working right now, you can very quickly see massive momentum and then a dip. And that's why I think it's really critical to always, be aware and be cognizant of how things change and how you could be on top of that. So, one of the things people are always curious about, because I think now with, ChatGPT, all these different AI platforms, the ideation process is starting to become pretty damn easy, right? You can do it in seconds if you have the right prompts. Um, where people start to get tripped up is the actual process of, okay, uh, I'm going to be consistent like Jordan for the next 10 months. What am I planning? What am I recording? How long does it take? What about editing? What about thumbnails? Like, what about all these other components? And I would love to kind of unpack that with you, because I think that's where people get tripped up is they start to we always talk about anxiety being a worry of something in the future that you can't even control. And a lot of people start to get anxious about creating content because they start to overwhelm themselves with all of these extra things that go into the production side of things. What's your take on that? What's your process like to block off time to plan, to record, and then to do all the post production stuff to actually get it up?
100%. And it's something that I relate to as well. When you're trying to find a consistency in anything in your business, I think it ultimately comes down to time blocking, and it has to be a priority for you. One thing I learned from you was there's certain things in your business that need to be non-negotiables. There needs to be stuff that takes priority over everything else that's in your business. And so if I let clients something pop up on my content day and completely derail me, now I feel like I'm scrambling. That's where my anxiety comes from. It's not from the preparation or making sure that I'm time blocking. It's from allowing others to derail what I know I need to do. So you have to set that non-negotiable. I have it every single day or every single week. Tuesday is my content day. I know that at 11 a.m. I'm going to start recording. I don't know what I may not even have it all figured out, but I'm going to sit down. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to record, and I'm going to get it done. Then I know that I'm probably going to have lunch. And then in the afternoon, now my belly's full. I'm happy. Now I can start editing. So everything is just, when can I fit this in at a consistent time every single week to make it happen? So you just have to look at your business and say, where's the opportunity in my schedule to take an hour or two, however long you need, to really sit down, plan out my video, hit record, get it done, and then start editing. I like to personally post my videos on either Tuesday or Wednesday mornings. That's kind of my own personal agenda there. But I know that Monday or Tuesday have to be my recording days. So let's say there is something that pops up that's absolutely, I cannot miss it next Tuesday. Well, I'm going to get all my stuff done on Monday then. And I'm not going to let anything pop up that's going to prevent me from doing that. And that's really the only way that I've been able to stay consistent for the better part of 10 months now.
Yeah, well, it goes back to that concept that you'll always make time for your priorities, right? You're a family guy, you've got a lot on the go, you've got all this type of stuff that, could get in the way. but you've made this a priority, and I think a lot of people, um, kinda look at maybe what you've done, what you know, all of your partners have done, John Michael, Simon, people like that, and say, you know, must be easy, right? Like it's they kind of think you can treat it part time, you can treat it as sort of like an afterthought, and that YouTube or any social platform is just this magic sauce that's just going to print clients without actually doing the work. And you know, when you start looking at this, if you decide that YouTube is going to be your avenue of lead generation, well, you have to treat it with the same intensity that you would if you were cold calling physicals and expireds or door knocking or doing anything, right? And you have to put full-time effort into it. But the craziest part is if you're intentional, you look at you and all the other people that, you know, are in our group that are succeeding with YouTube, it doesn't actually take that long once you make it a priority and once you are consistent with it. So I think that's a really good point of just honing in and making that you know, something where if you see an issue in the future, you can kind of, you know, address that now.
Yeah.
Um,
And real
Go
quick,
ahead.
Mike, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on a point because I think I completely skipped over it in one of your questions was the equipment that I use. A lot
Mm,
of people think they have to have something fancy to get started with recording or audio or anything like that. You have in your pocket, if you have an iPhone or a modern phone, you've got everything that you need essentially to get started. Uh, the iPhone, everything from the I think 12 and beyond has a stabilizer built into it. So if you're recording, it's not bouncing around a ton. It shoots in 4K. It does what everyone thinks that you need to make killer content. And don't get me wrong, like I said, like I've got this mic now, I've got a nicer background, but that's not the stuff that I even had that yielded me those results. It was me showing up and providing value every single week.
yeah, 100%. Let me go turn this fucking light down quickly, dude. It's driving me absolutely
Yeah,
nuts.
no worries.
Okay, so the next thing that I know a lot of people are curious about is the actual process of lead conversion, right? What happens when somebody reaches out? How do they reach out? And most importantly, how do you actually get them to reach out? Because there's a lot of people that even you and I both know that have 500 subscribers that are within reason consistent, but they're not closing $1 million deals. They're not getting $45,000 commission checks. And there's these subtle differences between the people that are able to generate leads from their content because they're intentional about it versus the people that are putting out content and getting, you know, upset that they're not getting the tangible results. How the heck are you getting people to reach out? And then what's that process like once they actually do?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest changes that I've made just within the last few months that has really started cranking out the leads has been putting my call to action near the beginning. Like
Mm.
it sounds so remedial, so intro level, but in my head I was like, well, who's going to reach out to me if I don't prove my value at first or like, maybe they have to watch the entire video and then at the end I'll ask them to reach out to me. No, what they're going to do just like we've seen on the analytics side is that the drop off of your audience is so fast that you've got to get that plug in super fast and people have to be told what to do. So for the longest time, I didn't say, hey, if you see something interesting in this video, or if by the end of this video you decide that I'm the person you want to work with, give me a call today, blah, 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 blah. I didn't do that. And so that has been a big, big change in how, like, the frequency of which people reach out to me. And I always thought in my head, I'm like, well, my contact info's in the description. They're just going to go down there. And no, you're expecting too much of the average viewer, right? So I put it real big and bold on the video, less than a minute in. If you want to talk to me about anything you saw today, please call me at, and then my phone number. So the big call to action is what I do. Um, and that's been a process of trial and error and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And I had to listen to someone like you who has done it and has seen the results to really make it make sense for me. I kind of thought I was doing things right, and then I hear this, through one of our trainings, and I go, oh dang, I could probably tweak that. And what do you know? Then people are reaching out. And what's so incredible about leads from YouTube and why I love doing it so much compared to any other lead gen is it's the warmest lead you could possibly get. It's literally I am not having to sit there and sell myself to you that I know what I'm talking about. You reached out to me. So
Mhm.
the conversation goes so much more quickly past the feeling out stage. There's no like familiarity barrier, right? They feel like they know me. They've seen what I look like. They know what I sound like. Um, they know my energy because they see me on camera. So by the time they reach out to me, I'm probably the person they want to work with. So there's not all this time about how many sales have you done this year? What's your volume look like? That has literally never come up during a YouTube lead conversation. So it just goes so much
100%.
more natural. We can get right into what it is that you're looking to do. And you've already made the decision, most likely, that I'm the person to do that because you called me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, and Uh, this goes back to something that I'm very bullish on right now, which is communication, because we're seeing this mass disruption with artificial intelligence, and what I'm assuming is going to be happening and predicting is going to happen over the next couple of years is when agents are starting to see that you could use things like HeyGen to automate all of your content in the video, and it's actually getting pretty damn good. They're going to go that route. And the problem is they're gonna have all this perfect, clean, polished, content online, and as soon as they get in person and they don't have that same communication style or skill set or tonality, it's gonna cause massive distrust. Whereas, building that communication skill like you're talking about now and being able to, be identical on camera as you are in person, and it strengthens that trust because you're like, "Oh, you're just like you were in the content." Um, that's what gets the leads to convert so high is when there's no delineation between the 2. Whereas
Yeah.
if there's a contrast, that's when people are gonna start to run into trouble.
There's a funny point to that. My most successful videos, as far as conversion and getting people to call me, I had maybe an outline of some of the key points I wanted to hit, but I just hit record and I just started talking. There was no big script. There was no like, oh, I've got to make sure I say this. It was just, okay, like this is what I believe my point is. Now let me expand upon it. And I feel like there's a super vulnerability and honesty that comes when you can just hit record and start talking about it because you truly believe what you're saying.
Mhm.
And I think that that's absolutely a skill that has to be developed. I don't think the first time you turn on a camera and you start recording, do you feel confident in that way? You might, but you just have to start. Whenever John Michael and I, my business partner, started our podcast, man, every excuse in the book. I didn't like the way I looked on camera. I didn't like the way I talked. I didn't like anything about content creation. And I was like, this is going to be a very short lived venture. And what do you know? Here I am, like years later, and I'm consistently making content. I'm making money from it, which who would have ever thought that I'd sell a home from someone that found me on TikTok and YouTube? Like it's such a wild concept. Like it'd probably blow my parents' mind to know that's where some of the leads come from. But that's the reality of what's in front of you, and every single person has the opportunity to get a piece of their own because we all have different stories. We all have different attributes that people are going to resonate with that make them reach out to you versus someone else. If I would have just looked at the numbers at Sum and Kim, I would have never started. But I thought, you know what? I've got a different story. I've got a different perspective, and I'm going to just put it out there and see what happens. And what do you know? It works out for you.
100%, dude. No, I absolutely love that, and, you said something interesting that I would love to kind of, touch on quickly. TikTok. Um a lot of people tend to think that it's like one platform or nothing, and I think in the beginning it's good to have focus, right? A lot of people get overwhelmed because they're trying to be very mediocre at a lot of different things, and I think once you get to the point where you are consistent with one platform, the real magic starts to happen when you have omnipresence, when you're consistent across all platforms. And I know that you've done that very well. Instagram, TikTok, and obviously YouTube. So you're tapping into short form and long form. And what I've personally found through a lot of people that, you and I both know and have worked with is that, people will, potential clients will find you on one platform and then validate you on another platform to see what you're all about, and then they'll reach out. And so it's really good to have this kind of web of content out there that, addresses people based on how they like to consume. Do you want to talk just a little bit about, what you're doing on short form as well, and maybe how that kind of weaves into your overall content strategy?
100%. I look at short form versus long form are obviously, in my opinion, two very different strategies. Very few people are going onto TikTok to watch a 10-minute explanation as to the pros and cons of Leander, Texas. You know what I mean? So that's a very intentional search that you're going to go on YouTube to find, not necessarily just stumble upon on TikTok and decide that that suddenly interests you and you're going to watch it. So two completely different audiences. The thing that made one of my clients reach out to me on TikTok was they said that I was relatable in the fact that like I wasn't always saying, hey, it's the best time to buy. Like realtors are known for always saying that it's the best time to buy, but you don't know enough about your audience to really make that assessment. You don't know what their situation is. So I use TikTok to break down this I'm untouchable professional
Mm,
persona, right? And this is just my own personal strategy. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. But I look at TikTok as where I can go to kind of loosen up a little bit, put a little personality, be a little funny, um, and really have fun with the content. I put a little bit of myself into every video too. Not everything I post on TikTok is real estate related. I'll post, the fact that I was in a metal band for a long time, and I'll kind of put something about that. People feel like they get to know me a little bit, and they go, "What is this realtor talking about ranking metal albums?" Right? So there's just, and I'm not even saying that that's strategic. It's just I feel like there's not as much of a every video has to be 100% real estate all the time.
mhm.
So that's my strategy, if you will, about TikTok is I feel like I can insert myself like a little bit of my own personality into it. And it's raw too. Like TikTok is raw. There's no editing that I do. I don't have fancy graphics. I don't have a bunch of sounds. It's mainly either like memes related to real estate or it's me hitting start and just talking.
Yep. I love that, and it is kind of a breath of fresh air because, again, it takes less than 60 seconds to record a video, but what I think is really cool about, especially for people getting comfortable in front of the camera, when you look at, like, from an algorithmic perspective, YouTube is a bit of a different ballgame where there's layers of optimization, and obviously you and I help people with that in order to, properly optimize your content to rank number one, because you can put out a great video and it flop and not get any leads. There's, a science there. With TikTok, their algorithm treats each individual piece of content as a blank slate. So you can have 100, followers and get a million views, like that, if you, catch the right strategy and capture interest. So I think that's amazing, dude. And I think that's a kind of a great segue into the fact that there's going to be a lot of people that want to do what you're doing. Obviously we see the stats right now. Not only did 71% of agents not close a deal in last year, but we're halfway through the year now and 70% still haven't closed a deal in 18 months, which is insane. Uh, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think that's a conscious choice because, you and I have been able to personally help people and give them the right strategy and guide them step by step and mentor them to start to see success because we've done it time and time again for all types of people. So let's talk about, why you decided to, entertain the idea of coming to EXP, why the Wolfpack specifically, and what can people expect when partnering with you, John Michael, Suman, and myself?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. I'll start off by saying for the longest time, I was a never EXP guy.
Yeah.
I just want to get that out of the way. And I mean, I would massively troll people online. Not massively. I'm not that big of a loser. But if I saw that you were on Facebook talking about production and I go to your profile and I see that you were with EXP, I would literally roll my eyes because I'm like, all they do is recruit. That none of them produce. That was the myth that was in my head, right? What changed it for me is that you guys were so different than any other EXP agent or organization that I talked to. I mentioned the podcast. We had Suman Kim on, And not once did he try to pitch us on EXP or anything. And that was really interesting to me because I'm like, he's got to be straining, not trying to pitch us right now. And instead, he tried to look at it from how can we collaborate and how can we blow up together, and how can I equip you guys with more tools, more resources, more leadership, and make you better. And that was different. That was so different than anything else. I've heard the horror stories about you pick the wrong sponsor, and this isn't just an EXP problem, but you pick the wrong sponsor, you'll never hear from them again. They
Mhm.
have zero vested interest in whether you succeed or if you fail. They're just in a numbers game. And the Wolfpack really changed that for me. And I believe this with my whole heart, that there's not a single organization, company wide or worldwide, that invests as much as the Wolfpack in each individual agent, as long as you will put yourself in a position to receive the information and go take action. All the stuff that everyone thinks that they have, all the things that I heard as a new agent where I, go to this brokerage because they have incredible training, and it didn't work out, and it was old school, it was irrelevant to the modern agent. Wolfpack delivers. It's everything from being on the leading edge of AI, having video, short form, long form content strategies. It's all here. So I'm always of the mindset that I'm always cautious, and I hate whenever I believe that something's going to be the answer and it's not. But for me, it Wolfpack truly has been the answer.
It's incredible, dude, and super grateful, and that's the cool part about this is you look at me, Suman, John Michael, you, 4 people who are actively going all in on content every week consistently and proving what works, and the fact that people right now that are struggling have the ability to get the mentorship, guidance, coaching, and training from all 4 of those people for free is insane. And that's why I say struggling is a choice because, you can have 4 layers of people that do have a vested interest in helping you win and grow because we're all partners, or you can stay stuck where you are because of the endless list of excuses that we see, but oftentimes people just let their ego and emotion get in the way instead of exploring opportunities. And again, I think that's why it's really important for people to click the link in the description, book that conversation with you, and just see what this is about, right? If it's not for you, that's completely okay. But if you just turn a blind eye to it, you could be ignoring the biggest opportunity that could change your business forever. So, what does it look like to work with you?
Yeah, I'll give you an idea. With us, we are so hands on with the agents that want it. Like, everyone's at different parts in their careers. Some people want to just hang their license somewhere, and some people are looking to actually blow their business up and scale. So we meet you where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new agent. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned agent of 10, 20 years and you're just looking to take advantage of the resources that are offered, or maybe you're looking to grow a team. We can literally help with all of that. And I think what's beautiful is, like you mentioned, there's no additional charge for just simply choosing the right sponsor. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I think if you're in a place right now, if you're listening to this and you're in a brokerage or a group where it feels like there's friction when you are successful, you're in the wrong space. Because when I was at a different brokerage, I won't say who it is, but it's a big box brokerage, it felt like if I wanted to be successful, it was gonna take away from someone else. There was a friction there where, "Oh, you're not on my team where I'm making an extra 20 to 30% off of you. Well, I'm gonna hold the cards to my chest because you're a threat, you're a competitor." And it's so different here. Like, the culture and community, I swear, like, it's so easy for me to say because 'cause I'm in it, but I'm just pleading with the listener who's going, man, that it just sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's exactly what I was looking for. And I think what a lot of agents are looking for, that supportive community. There's people in different downlines that we help just because it's for the betterment of each other and for the company. Like, there's buy-in. Like, it's such a wild difference. So we can meet you wherever you're at in your business. We've got the tools, we've got the resources, and the exit strategies that almost nowhere else offers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, we hear that all the time too. Is like, it sounds too good to be true. Or if it's this good, why isn't everybody here? And the reality is because most people let their ego and emotion get in the way of them looking at an opportunity with an open mind. And, Warren Buffett always says this, which is the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. And so many people are overlooking exactly what they need right now to get to the next level because they're keeping a closed mind. And every time somebody comes to, especially one of your events, like what you, John Michael, and Suman are doing event wise, when people see what it's actually like to be involved with our community, every single person is blown away. And so, dude, just wanted to say a huge thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge, sharing your experience, being so raw, relatable, transparent, and vulnerable about the entire journey because that's what people need. And I think, again, anybody that isn't where they want to be in their business and their life right now, take this opportunity to at least have a conversation with Jordan in the link in the description, because that could be the one pivotal moment that changes everything for you. So, dude, again, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity to share with everyone and looking forward to connecting with you guys.
Definitely. Well, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you got value from this video, click that link in the description. Let's have a conversation, see if we can be the right fit and help you. Otherwise, make sure you tune in for the next one.